I can't say it's going to be a little bit different than my normal videos because this is only the third video that I've posted. So, yeah. Hi friends, my name is Stephanie. Welcome to Part Student, Part Teacher. Today I'm going to do a little video on a lesson plan that I implemented this past semester that I absolutely loved. I thought it went really well. I thought the kids really enjoyed it. So I wanted to share it with you all. I also wrote a blog post about it a little while back, closer to when I actually did the lesson. So if you're interested in that, there will be a link down in the description so you can check it out. So, before I tell you a little bit about the lesson that I did, I need to give you a little bit of background so you understand sort of where I was at in my teaching career and my college career and what, was expected of me, what I was doing in the classroom, that sort of thing. So as you may know, if you watched my previous video, I'm going into my senior year of college where I will be student teaching this fall. I'll be in a second grade classroom this fall because my certification will be pre-K through third grade and special ed in pre-K and kindergarten. Now, I have a whole bunch of ideas of what I want to do once I get out of college. If you're interested in those, I may make a separate video. Let me know in the comments if you're interested to know a little bit more about what I want to do in the future. But I will be teaching in a primary grade for student teaching. We had to be in either first, second, or third grade. I will be in second, so that's how that goes. But for the past 3 semesters that I've been in the program, I've been in a couple different classrooms in a couple different grades. My first semester, we did a couple lessons and just some visiting in the classroom and sort of observing in a preschool class. So I was in a preschool class where I currently am working on my thesis, actually, which is really cool. So that is in the preschool that we have on my college campus. The teachers there are absolutely amazing and I love the kids and I get to work really close with them now because of the work I'm doing on my thesis. So I'm in there quite a bit. So I really loved doing that. We got to do like some board games we had to make for one of our lessons. We had to recreate a whole dramatic play center. My partner Jamie and I made an airplane. We read some books about airplanes to the kids and we made like a little cardboard cutout of an airplane so they could like pretend to be on an airplane and look out the window and they would go traveling, and we had suitcases and cameras and it was absolutely amazing. So that was my first semester. The second semester of the program, I got to, as part of I believe it was part of our science class, we got to do a couple practicums. I think we only went about 6 times, but I was in a first grade classroom for that, and my teacher was the best. I absolutely loved her. She was so sweet. She was one of those teachers who was very comfortable saying that she was not always right, that she didn't have all the answers, that not only was I going to be learning, but she was going to be learning something from me too. So she was so amazing. She was very comfortable sharing the fact that she makes mistakes and that we would both be learning from this experience. So I really loved her. She was such a great help. She helped me a lot with choosing lessons to do, and so that was really fun. In my first grade class, we got to do a couple different lessons. We did some reading, we did some writing, some science. We got to do a bunch of different things, so that was really cool. I did one lesson on the solar system, and so we talked about the sun, the earth, and the moon. We talked about how the earth moves, and we talked about day and night and years, and it was, the kids loved it because we turned off the lights, we used flashlights. We had like little balls that represented the sun and the earth, and so that was a whole lot of fun. I also did something on word surgery, I think I called it. It was an idea that I actually found on Pinterest. We did some contractions. So we had the kids cut apart words and put them together using a little band-aid that had an apostrophe on it. I thought it was really cute. Some of them got it right away, some of them had a little bit of a harder time. But that was really cool for me to like actually implement that lesson and see, what the kids were ready for, what they weren't. Because she had some kids that were on like a really high reading level that she thought, would learn so much from it, and they did really well. And then some kids that, weren't quite there yet. So I got to see a difference, which was really cool. We also did a running record in that class, so that was cool. I get to practice that because we had learned a lot about that during the semester, so that was really fun. But yeah, that was that. And then this past semester, which is the one I'll be talking about mainly in this video, I was in a preschool classroom. Now this was a part of our special ed practicum. I will be certified, like I said, in special ed for pre-K and kindergarten. Ideally, I would love to teach in a special ed pre-K classroom. That's what I've always wanted to do. I want to be a special ed teacher. I want to work with kids who need a lot of extra help. I want to work in a self-contained preschool special ed classroom, ideally. My newest thing is a little bit different. I sort of change my mind every day. But if you're interested to hear more about like what I want to do, let me know. I may make a separate video about that. But anyways, so this past semester I was assigned a classroom. I actually worked not with a regular classroom teacher, but I worked with the speech teacher. Okay, my battery's blinking at me, so I'm gonna have to charge it, but this may shift afterwards. You know, we'll see. I'm sorry about that. I apologize in advance. So yeah, we're gonna take a little dance break. Hi friends, I'm back. It's like an hour later. I don't know why I looked down at my wrist. I'm not wearing a watch. But it's like an hour later, and real quick, I just want to say I'm not really a big fan of like rap music. I do listen to like some Christian rap. I don't know, it's just not really my style. I won't not listen to it, but it's not like my go-to, right? But I just watched the video for Logic's song, 1-800-273-TALK, well, 1-800-273-8255. And it just, like, my heart, like, I can't. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I was in a preschool classroom this past semester. Now, this classroom was a like 1-to-1 ratio where they had a certain number of kids with IEPs and that same amount of kids without IEPs. So they had quite a few kids in those classrooms. And the classroom that I was in, they had an AM session and a PM session. So I was kind of in two classes at once. So I had two groups of kids, so like 40 some odd kids, and half of them had some sort of disability and half of them did not. So most of the people in my core during this practicum, they did a lot of observation and would help out in the way that like a para would help out. So they were in the class and they were doing stuff, and we did have to teach a couple lessons as part of like our class requirements, and we had to write some papers and do some interviews and things. But from talking to all the other girls in my core, I did far more than they did. So I kind of got a student teaching level of assignments at a practicum level class. So most of the girls were not doing anything near what I was doing. So that's just what happened. That was the teacher that I had been assigned to. And I have to say, I loved those kids. The kids there were absolutely fantastic. I had one little girl who every day would come up to me and go, "I just love you," and give me a big hug. And like, they were the sweetest things ever. Yes, a lot of them were troublemakers, and you know, you could see like how much strain it caused, but they were so sweet. And like at the end of the day, that was a reference. They would just, you know, be so happy to be at school and would be so sweet, and like all of the Valentines that I got from them, or you know, the little drawings that they did for me that I had up all over my wall at college last year, like I loved those kids. They were so sweet. But I didn't get along with the teachers that much. I don't want to get too into it right now, but there were some things that we just didn't agree on and we didn't get along too well. So I did quite a bit in that classroom. And my last week there, I was there twice a week. So I went on Mondays and Wednesdays and I was there full day. And then I went back to my university and we had class Monday night for 3 hours, Wednesday night for 3 hours. And then I had dance for another 3 to 4 hours afterwards. So that was fun. So that last week I was there, I was given the task of doing 2 lessons. I did 1 lesson on Monday and 1 lesson on Wednesday. And I was in charge of like the full day. So I chose what activities went out in the morning when kids were coming in. I was in charge of the question of the day. I was in charge of the message for the day. I ran the whole class. I was in charge. So it was a little terrifying because that was something I hadn't done before. I'd gotten to do a little bit of it throughout the semester where I'd take over a little bit or, I would help them come up with stuff. But it was absolutely terrifying for me because that was something I'd never done before. But it went a lot better than it could have, so that's good. There were definitely some things that didn't go great. But, it went really well for my first time, actually taking over classroom, full day. So, yeah. So that last week that I was there, the theme of the week was kids around the world. So they were reading about different countries and, we looked at maps and we learned things, and it was, I am a huge fan of kids learning about the world around them. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's great to do, so I was really excited to get to do some of these lessons. So every day they would come in, they would sign wash their hands, sign their name, and then they would go up and answer a question of the day. We had it written up, and towards the beginning of the year they had pictures of themselves that they would put up under the answer they wanted to choose, and then later on we had them writing their name. So what I did was I wrote out the morning message and I had a question at the end. So I wrote out their morning message and then I had a question and I had, I think they were both yes or no questions. So I had a yes column and a no column, and then they would go up and write their name. We did that, and that was very much based on the lesson. The things that we put out during the morning were just kind of they had Legos that they could use, or we had coloring pages and stuff like that. So I put out coloring pages of Tanzania, which is where my lesson was based. I did both Monday and Wednesday about Tanzania. So I put out coloring pages of the map, I did maps of the world, I did a cute little globe with kids all around it. We transitioned, we went to our morning meeting type thing. We did, our typical, our welcome song, we answered our question, we read, whatever. So one of the things that we did throughout the week was we learned how to say friend in different languages. In Tanzania, they speak Swahili. So I learned a little bit of Swahili. I am by no means an expert. I can count to 5 and say hello, and that's about it. But I learned how to say friend. And friend in Swahili is Rafiki, which is the name of one of the characters of The Lion King. So a lot of the kids brought that up and was like, oh, that's the guy in The Lion King. And so that was a cool kind of connection for them to make. So we learned how to say friend, and they practiced it with me, and I read them our little morning message and I asked their question, and we talked about how many friends said yes, how many friends said no, that kind of thing. We incorporated some math and like we would normally do throughout the morning meeting. And then we got into an activity where I read a book called Elizabetha's School, and I love those books. So the Elizabetha books I had discovered, I think it was last year in one of my reading classes. We were required to bring in books every week to sort of share with the class. And so I found these Elizabetha books, which are about a girl who lives in Tanzania, and it's about her life. She takes care of a little baby doll that she makes out of a rock. She, has a family that she helps take care of, her little brother, and she goes to school and all these sort of things. And it is a fantastic series. I love it. I'll leave a link down in the description to some of those books so you can check them out. But I read the book Elizabet's School, and that's what I based my lesson on. So before we started, I had them fill out a chart. And I did it a little bit differently in the morning and then in the afternoon because I had time to reflect and talk to the teachers about like what went well, what didn't, how I should have done it, that sort of thing. So I did it a little bit differently, but basically what I did was I had a chart that on one side said the name of our school and had our like school mascot picture. And then on the other side, I had Tanzania and a picture of the book. So it had questions like, how do children get to school? What do children learn in school? What do children play in school? What do children wear to school? That sort of thing. So first we filled out our side. We filled out what we do in school, how we get to school, etc. So all the kids there are driven by a family member or like a babysitter or whatever to school. They don't have the option to walk, and they don't get buses in preschool. They get them later on. So I had little cutouts, little pictures of things like a car and, you know, kids walking and all these different kinds of pictures. So I would ask the question, someone would raise their hand and they'd tell me the answer. And I'd have them come up, pick a picture from, I had all these pictures sort of laying out, pick up a picture that matched their answer and they'd glue it on the chart. So I thought that was a really great idea because not only were the kids answering the questions, but they could do something physical to put up a picture to help them remember that and help them see that. But it was also really helpful for kids who couldn't verbalize their ideas. So there were some kids who I knew wouldn't be able to vocalize what they were saying or what they were thinking. I knew there were some kids who would have a hard time coming up with an answer just right off the top of their head. They would rather have something to choose from. So, for example, there was one kid, let's call him Jay. I said, you know, what do we play at school? What's something that we play with? And I know he really likes to play with the blocks. So I said, so I had Jay come up and I said, hey Jay, you know, what's something you like to play with at school? Do you play with this or that, whatever? I said, can you find the picture of the blocks? And then he picked up the picture that I had cut out of these blocks that built a tower. And he was able to glue that onto the board. So even though he couldn't vocalize, I like to play with blocks at school. He could say the word blocks, and he could find the picture of the blocks and use that. So that was a really good way to incorporate everyone in the classroom. Everyone had that ability to, you know, participate in the lesson, which was really cool. So we did that for the whole our school side. And then we were reading the book. And in the morning I read the book and then had the kids fill out the chart. And then in the afternoon I had them fill out the chart while we were reading the book. And I think that went a little bit better, but whatever. Anyways, they filled out the chart with things we learned about in the book. So in the book, Elizabeth got to school by walking. She walked to school with her big sister. So we found a picture of feet walking, and they would put that up to say, you know, in Tanzania, the kids walk to school. In Tanzania, they wear uniforms. So that was one of our vocab words. We talked about what a uniform is when all the kids wear the same clothes. So police officers wear a uniform, or, you know, like the people who work at Stop and Shop wear a uniform. So we talked a little bit about that and a couple other vocab words, and we just sort of filled out the chart to see what we learned in the book about kids in Tanzania. So after we filled out the chart and we read the book and everything, and I didn't read it all the way through. I read it all the way through, but I sort of skimmed it because it was a longer book. I knew the attention span that these kids had, and it wouldn't have been good to read word for word all the way through. So we learned a couple games that they play there, and we learned how to count to 5 in Swahili because she was counting, you know, all the kitty cats and like stuff like that. So we did that, and that was our main lesson for the day. We broke up and they had like their free play time. So, you know, they could build in blocks, they could do art, whatever. And during that, I also had to do a hands-on art activity. So we made drums because one of the things that was in the book was during recess, the kids played drums and they danced. And so we compared that to, we have music class and we learn how to play instruments, and we dance, and we do all those things. So we sort of connected it to see that even though there are some differences, like walking versus taking a car, or wearing uniforms versus wearing, whatever we want kind of thing, that there were a lot of similarities. So we got to see, they learn how to count, they learn how to read just like we do, but we also got to see this music, which is, a big part of the culture. They got to decorate a pattern. I had a piece of paper where they would color it in, decorate it, and then we wrapped it around. I had these little cups, and we put some duct tape over the top to be like the drummy part. I wanted to use balloons, but that was a choking hazard, so we couldn't, so we used duct tape. It worked just fine. It wasn't the loudest drum ever. It wasn't super professional, but it was a preschool art craft thing. So it worked for them. They, got to do it, and while we were there, I talked a little bit about the book, about what they had learned. We practiced saying Tanzania and stuff like that. And then on Wednesday, I wasn't there Tuesday, they did something else. They learned how to say friend in Spanish on Tuesday. My mom speaks Polish, so I called her up real quick and I was like, Mom, how do you say friend in Polish? So we learned that, and that was a really tough one for them to say, but it was good to practice. I said it, they repeated it, we talked about it a little bit. And then here's my favorite part of the lesson. So on Wednesday we had our same, morning meeting, whatever, they answered the question. The question for the day was, have you ever written a letter? So we talked about, have any of the kids there ever written a letter? What is a letter? Who do you write a letter to? So some of them said they write a letter to grandma, or someone sends them a card for their birthday. And we talked about kind of stuff like that. And so while we were doing this, we talked about writing letters and things like that. And then I have a connection to a group called Asante Sana for Education, which Asante Sana means thank you very much in Swahili. So one of my high school teachers and his family started this organization called Asante Sana. And I knew the teacher. I had met his wife before she came into our school to talk about the organization. I knew his kids because they went to school with my best friend. So I knew the family, and they are so sweet, and I absolutely love this organization. If you want to know more about it, I'll tell you a little bit, but if you want to know more, definitely check out their website and their social media. I'll leave links down in the description so you can check them out. They're really cool. But basically what they do is they build schools in Tanzania. And not only do they do that, but they help provide education, and they always do trips over there. So, high school and college students can go over, especially if they want to be teachers and like practice teaching the classes and work with the kids and help them build. And they provide really good education for teachers there. So not only do they build the schools, but they build the teachers kind of thing too. So they educate the teachers so that way they can further on this education. And just recently, this past year, they opened up a new preschool. It's a Montessori preschool, and it's so cute. And so I thought it would be great for the kids to see not only this book where the kid goes to school in Tanzania, but see actual pictures of real kids who go to school there. So I made a little PowerPoint with a bunch of pictures of, kids from the school, and I talked to Ashley from Asante Sana. So thank you so much, Ashley, if you're watching this. Thank you so much for all your help. It was truly a blessing to be able to work with you. And so I had pictures from Asante Sana from this preschool that I got to show the kids, and we talked about how they have smaller class sizes than us. We have a lot of friends in our class. They don't have as many. It's a smaller group. And they wear uniforms there. We don't wear uniforms. So we got to see a little bit about that. But then we also got to see they have centers in their classroom. So we saw them playing, and, we saw them eating snack in their classroom just like we eat snack in our classroom. And, we got to see all these things, which were really cool. And we got to see their library. I showed them a picture of the library, and we looked. And the teacher actually went over to our library and pulled out some of the same books. So that was really cool for the kids to see. They had, Giraffes Can't Dance, and, all these, different books that the kids had read in class. So they got to see that, this classroom on the other side of the world read the same books that they did. So that was a really cool connection for them to meet. And I showed them some pictures of some students who had traveled with Asante Sana over to the preschool to, teach some lessons. And, they got to see, they have people who are practicing to become teachers come and teach their classroom. Just like I, Miss Dominguez, am going to be a teacher when I grow up, so I get to practice here. So that was just something that was really cool. I think the kids really liked it because they got to see actual kids. It wasn't just a book, it wasn't just this abstract idea, they got to actually see the kids. So that was really amazing. And then after we looked at all the pictures, after we did all this, I brought the kids back to the circle and we talked about writing a letter. So we wrote a letter that was basically saying, "Dear friends in Tanzania, we are a school in our town, and we are learning about kids all around the world. So this week we learned a bit about Tanzania." And so we told them a little bit about, why we were writing them this letter. And during all this, we got to talk too about how to construct a letter. We had our beginning, our dear friends, we had the body of our letter, and then we signed it at the end. So we talked a little bit about, writing a letter and stuff like that too, which was really cool to incorporate. But so, after we wrote our little intro, we talked about what we like to do at school. So at school, we learn how to read. At school, we, play with blocks. We play with cars. We do this, that, and the other thing. So we talked a little bit about us, and then we asked them some questions. And so I had the kids come up with questions, and this was all them. This was, I would say, what's something that you would like to ask our friends? I want to know what they like to play with in school. So I wrote, what do you like to play with in school? And then I'd say, does anyone have any other questions that they'd like to ask? And so, the kids would raise their hands, we'd ask questions, say, what do you eat for snack? How do you get to, we talked about all these different things that they wanted to know. And I did this with both classes. So I ended the day with 2 different letters, one from the morning class and one from the afternoon class. And when I got back, I had class that night, but then the next day, I compiled the 2 letters and I put them together. So, I had our dear friends in Tanzania, we are learning about kids around the world and we learned about your country. This is what we like to do. What do you like to do? Signed, your Rafiki in pre-K 4. So we wrote this letter and I combined all the questions and all the things that the 2 different classes had made. I put them together, and I'd been talking with Ashley this whole time, and my teacher knew what I wanted to do. So I put the 2 letters together and I sent them in an email off to my cooperating teachers and to Ashley at Asante Sana. This, I would love if you could share this with the school in Tanzania. Let me know, if they write back, that'd be great. And I CC'd my teacher so she was able to send it directly to the classroom because I wasn't going to be in the room anymore and stuff like that. So once I left the classroom, that was something that, I had them coordinate. Said, if you want to send them a picture of the class or whatever so they could see, that'd be cool. Whatever. So that's kind of what I did. I don't really have much else to say about it. I think it went amazing. I definitely would have changed some things, and I did change from morning to afternoon. The way I wrote the letter, the way I presented things. Changing how I did the chart, whether I wanted to read the book first or do the chart while reading. So I definitely would have changed some things. I did change some things from morning to afternoon. But overall, this was a lesson that I loved and I thought went really well. I shared it with my professor, Heather, because it was something that I was just really proud of and something that I really wanted her to see, especially because my practicum didn't go exactly as I hoped it would. There were definitely some not so great parts of my practicum, but my professor was so amazing and so helpful and so supportive throughout all of it. So thank you, Heather, for that. But I sent her this lesson and sort of, everything I had done to kind of show her. And overall, I think it went really well, and I loved doing it. I love teaching kids about other places around the world. So, and I got to make that personal connection because I knew the people who went to the school and who did this. and who built these schools and who taught these kids. So that was really cool to have that connection. So thank you, Asante Sana. Thank you, Ashley, for your help with this. I really appreciate it. It was such a blessing to work with you, and I'm so glad I got to share this with my kids. So that's about it for this video. I want to say thank you for watching this video. I hope to put up a lot more like it, any sort of things that go really well. I'll be starting student teaching really soon. Let's see, oh dear, I start in like a week. Today, when I'm filming this, is Saturday, and on Friday I go in to help my cooperating teacher set up her classroom a little bit, and then next Monday is when we start our PD. So, wish me luck. If you have any tips or tricks, feel free to share them in the comment section down below. Also check out the description for links, anything that I mentioned previously, like Asante Sana, if you want to check out their website, if you want to check out the blog post that I did, check out down below. Also follow all my social media, subscribe, ring that bell to get notifications every time I post a video, and yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, friends. Bye! I think people I know get really annoyed with me because I tend to have my teacher voice on all the time, and I get how that can be annoying for some people, but sometimes it's just really hard for me to turn it off, so I'm sorry about that. What are you doing? I'm filming a video!